Welcome to the WordPress Photography Podcast, the podcast for photographers who want to learn how to get the most out of WordPress to grow their photography business. You don't need to be a geek to understand WordPress. Settle back and listen as we show you how. Now, here's your host, Scott Wyden-Kivowitz.
Welcome to episode 37. My name is Scott Wyden-Kivowitz, and today I'm not joined by my co-host Rachel Connolly from Photoscribe. Rachel couldn't make it today, but today we have Rosh Sillars. I've known Rosh for many years, still have yet to meet in person. I feel like that's the way it always goes these days. And Rosh is a photographer, a marketing consultant, the author of 4 books, including one on online marketing, which is co-authored by Lindsay Adler. Rosh is a past university instructor, speaker, podcaster, and blogger, and these days a vlogger, which we can talk about a little bit. And he supports creative professionals to open new markets and grow their business. So you've been on my list to get on the show for a while, Rosh, and I'm glad you're finally here.
Good to be here. Yeah, thank you very much. I've been waiting for about 37 episodes for that invite.
Yeah.
Ever since your announcement, like, Scott should be calling any day now.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe proactivity on my part should have been.
Oh man, it's one of those things. Like you want to get so many different people on. It's like sure. When do you do it? And our big thing is the whole WordPress industry is male dominated. There's a lot of females in it and it's growing, but it's more male dominated. So our goal is every 3 or 4 people we have on is a female. Okay. So good. We want to make sure that we are getting the diversity in there, which is difficult, but yeah. So anyway, so let's dive into, before we get into what's going on with you, let's dive into the WordPress photography related news. On February 28th, Amazon had a huge outage of their S3 servers. Now, this is basically a cloud platform that many companies are using. In fact, Imagely Hosting uses it, MailChimp uses it, Shootproof uses it, Swift Galleries uses it, and SmugMug uses it. SmugMug actually uses it for their own site as well as for the customer. So SmugMug was down completely for the entire day. So it took down hundreds of thousands of websites and applications that are all running on their servers. So it's all back now. It was literally down an entire day, but now it's back, and yay. But that sucks. That sucks for Amazon. That sucks for all the customers who are using those servers. So the next bit of news is Next-Gen Gallery, one of the plugins that Imagely makes, had a minor but important update in 2.1.79, which fixes a security issue. It's recommended for everybody to update, and it's definitely upgrade safe. It's been upgraded well over 100,000 times at this point. So please do that as soon as possible if you are using. Actually, now since that update, we've actually released another update, which is a really, really good one. So make sure you're up to date. The last bit of news is WordPress 4.7.3 is out with 6 security patches. And this one is actually one that the Department of Homeland Security actually shared that it's important to update. So I don't know the details of the security patches, but apparently at least one of them was caught wind by the Department of Homeland Security. So be sure to update your WordPress, run your backups and update so that your instances are completely up to date and safe, and all those security vulnerabilities are gone. So that's the news for today.
Very good. Scary stuff about Amazon. I mean, Amazon, that was supposed to be like bulletproof. That's where you go when you just don't want to go down. Yeah,
and it's funny. The person who caused the incident, I'm sure, was fired. It was all caused by one typo.
Right. A typo. That's right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's coding.
That's coding. Exactly. Yeah. So when things go wrong, it could easily be a typo.
Yeah. I've been there. I've been there. I'm sure we all have.
Yeah. Anyway, so what's going on with you? What's going on in the world of Rosh?
Wow, been pretty busy. Great start to the new year. A lot of new clients on both the photography and the digital consulting and marketing front. Just moved into a new studio. I'm so excited about that. It's a really cool space. I've been in the studio for 12 years, just a half a mile away. And that one was kind of in the basement of a big building. It was 2,500 square feet. It was great. It had cove, it was cool, but there was no daylight. And we had an opportunity to move into this cool space, which is looks like a miniature version of the White House and is really just a cool place to be. And so we're pretty excited about that. Just getting more involved in YouTube. I kind of had an experiment at the end of last year. As a lot of us, we've been on YouTube forever. I mean, 2006 was my first channel, but I'd load something here. I'd maybe get on a kick and get a few videos up here and there. But I finally just decided, let me test it out. And I saw some good things happen. Said, it's time, because video is so important. And so, I've done well with Periscope, but I go off and on with that. And I said, I need to make a commitment. If I'm going to make a commitment somewhere, let's go for the big dog. And there I am. And so I've been doing that since beginning of December, and I'm loving every second of it, sharing ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's one of my goals 2017 is also to do more videos. So I've been focusing on that a lot for myself as well. And right now I've got my gear for doing like screencasting type videos. It's fairly straightforward. It's what most people use. But I'm still trying to figure out the whole, what do I use? What do I get for on the go videos, right? So,
honestly, it could be anything these days. Your phone is just fine, And if you want a little bit better audio, there's some nice little things you can hook up to your phone.
I've got a wireless lav that I use with my phone. The only downside to the phone is, the better camera is this one, and then you can't see yourself.
Right.
So going like this is a little strange. So, but eventually, who knows? Maybe the next iPhone will have a good camera that's a front facing as well as a rear facing. So So speaking of video, let's talk about YouTube. So you're pushing videos hard this year, right? You're pushing not only just videos, but you're doing video education too, like how people could utilize video in their business. And so let's talk about photographers specifically, because this is the WordPress photography podcast.
Absolutely.
How could photographers that are targeting, consumers, brides, grooms, families, how could they utilize YouTube as a marketing channel for their businesses?
Well, I think it's the same, very similar as it is when working with your blog on WordPress. And I have found that actually using the combination, as you may know, I'm a big fan of using combination things, is much more powerful. And I started using YouTube and more. And then I said, hey, I need to put this back into my blog. And so my blog is really getting some good backwind moving forward because I'm putting more videos in there, which is helping the SEO, which is helping engagement, which is helping, more time on site and people being involved, and then more people seeing my YouTube videos because I have a pretty good blog following. So it's been very, very helpful. But when it comes to deciding how you want to, or what you want to do for your videos, again, it's the same as your blog or podcast or whatever it is. What are those questions that the end user has? What are those questions that people ask you often about your business, what you do, and create videos? What are people searching for? And if you create some good videos that way, you should be very, in good shape.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're a wedding photographer and you already have blog content that's saying, the 10 best venues in New York City, right? You can then do a video that is talking about the same exact thing using sample photos and yourself, talking to a camera, and just sort of, you've got this video content that you can now add to that blog post, update the blog post so it's, the date is new and it looks fresh. You've evergreened that content by just adding something fresh and new to it.
Absolutely. Even you don't even have to do all 10 though, but if you've been at 3 out of the 10 locations, you can kind of show what you've done, and you can add, quite often a good kind of a tentpole blog post is, your local hall, the maybe the hotel that people go to for events, and and create a video related to that, as well as a good solid blog post about that. And you can be picked up in both video in search as well as your blog post, and become that expert in your town for the photography there. Because a lot of times maybe people say they're just typing in basic information about that location, and your stuff pops up along with it, and they, well, yeah, we do need a photographer for this event. That was our next step, and here's someone who knows the venue. That's great, and you can become the expert. And so both video as well as the written word is really powerful.
Awesome. Yeah, and the photographers that you work with on the consulting side, are you seeing a lot of them or any of them start moving to about videos?
Yeah, I mean I think that's almost the natural first step for a lot of people, and I think it is personality, and quite often we know if we're going to connect with somebody right when we meet them. Now, video isn't perfect in that world, but you certainly can get a better feeling. Okay, this person seems like an upstanding human being that I could work with and want to bring into my wedding, and or my corporate event, or photograph my food, or take pictures of my buildings and walking around the property. We're not going to call security. It's going to be that kind of a thing. So being able to relate to people at that deeper level absolutely is a great way to go. And I've been putting more and more videos personally on all my channels, and updating them, multiple pages, different video for different types of a page. And I found that extremely valuable, and certainly have talked with photographers about doing that. Some photographers have been doing a really good job creating some very creative videos, to be quite honest. I'm more of just kind of a talking head kind of guy when I do my stuff, but there's some, photographers are getting really creative with their video, and I'm seeing some really cool things that, make me jealous.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, there's some people doing some really impressive things. So for anybody who's listening and wants to know the easiest way to embed a YouTube video, a Vimeo, a Wistia, any of those videos onto your website, in the content area, the default content editor, this may not work if you're using a page builder because they use something different, but if you're using the default content editor on a page or post, you can literally take the URL of the video, so like a youtube.com link of the video, and just paste it on your page or post. And WordPress has something called OEmbed, which is a sort of universal embedding API, a way for software to talk to different websites. And so by just pasting the YouTube URL of your video, it will actually convert that into an embedded video automatically. You don't have to go in and figure out what sizes to embed. It will automatically do it for you. So that is how to embed a video, and you can do it on any page or post at any given time. So I strongly recommend adding more video to your photography website because of everything Rosh said about connecting to people, about creating additional content that can be consumed. Remember, YouTube is the second most popular search engine just under Google. Now, that means Google owns the first two popular search engines.
That's right.
That people use. So,
and that's one of the reasons why I went to YouTube also. You have Facebook Live, you have Periscope, but the one thing YouTube has is that search feature. And I want people searching for what I'm offering. And so when people are looking for examples and specific, they're not going to find that in Facebook. They just happen, if they're your friend, if they happen to wander by, fine. And that's great, and that can be real powerful. And of course, Facebook pushes that out, and you can certainly get a really good view count. But down the road, the long tail of it isn't really there compared to a YouTube, which is what you really want. That what I like to refer to as that compound interest of that long tail for your video to have life 2-3 years down the road. I've had videos take off 2 and 3 years after I posted them, and that's very common. It does not happen on other platforms.
Yeah, and Facebook is starting to push video more. Yep. It's still not as big as YouTube, that's for sure. But they are pushing videos more. So what I would say, and this is something I've been experimenting with, is when you have video content that could work well outside of just YouTube, for example, if you're referencing another YouTube video and you're actually doing something like click here, like that type of thing, which you can't do on Facebook right now. if you're not doing something like that and it's just a straightforward video, cross-post it on Facebook. Yeah. Put it on your page on Facebook because Facebook will give more attention to that than any other content.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you do Facebook ads for video views, it's super, super inexpensive.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And make sure you upload it to Facebook. Don't just take your link from YouTube.
Exactly.
I mean, you will get 10 times more views if you upload it natively versus a link.
And Facebook's now doing auto captioning too, which you can edit, but they will actually automatically close caption your videos for you if you want, which is a nice feature. And it's pretty good. It's still not perfect, but it's pretty good. All right, so I want to talk about something that I know you love a lot, and that is pricing photography.
Yes,
but I don't want to talk about. I mean, you've written. I'll make sure I link to it. You've written a lot about how to price your photography. I'll make sure I link to the one you just updated one for 2017.
Right? Yep.
Yeah. So, but I want to talk about specifically adding pricing to a pricing page or an about page or something on a photography website. That's one of those things like some people are it's either black or white. People are not, it depends. It's either yes or no.
Right.
So I'm curious what your opinion on is, because I think you're going to have a more unique one than the average person.
Sure. Well, I do that. I actually create a calculator on my website so people can kind of figure it out themselves. And also so people can figure out their own kind of pricing. A photographer can actually go there and figure out their own with their own system. I'm always updating. Every once in a while I tweak it, and I get some pushback here, pushback there. Maybe you should correct this. And it looks like it was made in 1971. I get it, but I haven't taken the time to update it.
Nice.
But my favorite example is a local photographer, relatively well-known photographer who. He was really getting frustrated in the Detroit community. And he decided that, everybody's like half his price. Everybody's charging like $75, $65, $75 an hour. And he was like $200 an hour. And he's like, I'm not going down to $75 an hour. I'm worth more. So what he did is he put his prices on the website. And everybody in the community pretty much knows him. And he let people know, I put my prices on my site, and before you know it, within a year, the average price within Detroit doubled for events. And in his thought, and I agree, is I rather compete with somebody who is $5-10 lower than me, and that's where you're comparing portfolios versus somebody who's half price. And so I think for the health of the industry, I think it's good that you put your prices out there, and you can see what other people do. You can see if you can start seeing, wow, I've been charging, $50 an hour or $50 a photo, and I noticed that a lot of people are, charging $150. Well, why am I doing that? I'm not going to do $150 because I need to, be lower than them. So I'll do $125. Hey, that's much healthier for your community than $50. I'd rather everybody try to, underbid me by a few dollars than by half. So that's been good, and I think it's a good way to go, and I see the value in that. It also pre-qualifies people who are looking. People who say, oh, okay, they're $50 an hour, and this person is $1,000 an hour. Oh, I can see the difference, and I can see why. Obviously that's an exaggeration, but people are pre-qualified, and I don't get as many calls from people who are looking for the cheap photographer. Right. Usually when people are calling me, they're calling me because they want my work. They're familiar with my prices. And, honestly, a lot of times I give people a better price than what's there. For example, I do a lot, as a lot of per image pricing. And and I may say, okay, it's for a local assignment, $250 for the first image, and it says $300 on my website, and I say, okay, $250 for the first image and $175 for each additional. It says $200 on the website. So now they're feeling, oh, he's giving me a good price. Now I already valued, I was willing to pay what he was willing to, but it kind of secures it. It makes them stop and not want to shop anymore. I still feel I'm getting full value. And it all depends on the production and all that's involved. Sometimes it has to be higher because it's a higher production shoot. But again, I try to work it that way that, good, this is my standard rate, and I do charge people that. But in some cases, depending on the production and what's going on, I can give them a little bit of a better deal. And hey, or maybe for the fact that I'm not that busy that week. And so knocking it down $50 per image isn't a big deal because I wouldn't be working that week anyway.
Exactly, yeah. So do you think it matters whether you say exact pricing versus something like starting at $300, for example?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I often put in their information about use and how it's going to be used and understanding, try to explain, copyright and all that. I think it's important because, the value of an image that somebody is going to use on a poster in their local business, downtown business, is much different than a corporation who's going to use that same image on billboards and magazine covers all over the world. I mean, it's just a different animal. So, I mean, the value of image is different for everyone. But I will usually say for local usage to clarify it, and I'll state what local usage means. And that way, when they say, well, we're going to use this regionally or through a few states, then I know I can add a premium to that because the value of that image is higher, is going to be used more.
And it's funny, you and I have had chats about the per image pricing, and I love the whole concept, and it's I've been using it whenever possible, and
I know you've struggled at times back and forth. I mean, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
And we all do.
Yeah. But I had an interesting situation a few months back where I was approached to photograph a company that is about to franchise.
Right.
And I gave a price based on per image pricing, based on back and forth with the potential client, with the lead, about what was expected, what type of photos, and what type of different situations. There was different lighting scenarios. There was portrait versus there was lifestyle versus still like products.
Yep.
So there's a wide variety. Basically meant bring all of my equipment to this facility. And I went with a price that, in my opinion, was very reasonable. And there's a case where a very wealthy person who owns the business that was about to franchise it basically said, "Are you kidding me? That's overpriced." He wound up going to get a $600 photographer. Now, I didn't want the job for anything lower than what I offered. I'm no problem turning it away. And it's just funny because what they get is a $600 photographer's work.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So the point of me sharing that is, don't be afraid to price what you know you're worth.
Yes.
Use calculators, whether you're using, and I'll link to Rosh's per image pricing calculator in the show notes, whether you're using his per image pricing calculator, or you're doing a day rate, or you're doing a package price, whatever your pricing is, using like PPA's, how to price your photography calculator, whatever it is, don't undervalue yourself.
No. And you know what? Sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we're doing something for a charity or it's someone we know and we want to give them a deal. That's fine. But make sure you still invoice them for your full amount, because that way they know what you are worth. And so what you can do, like, for example, for a charity, if it was $1,000 morning or something, and you give them an invoice for $1,000 with 100% credit. That way they don't refer you to somebody else like, hey, I know a really cheap photographer. No, I know a photographer who's about $1,000 for the morning, but maybe he can give you a break too or something like that, but this is his value I can't speak for. And the thing is, people, if you are cheap, people refer you to other people who need a cheap photographer, and you keep wondering why you can't get any bigger clients. There are people who charge $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 a day. And you say, that's crazy. They're not worth that. Well, someone's paying it. They may not work as much. And you know what? I'm okay working once a month for $50,000 a month. I'm okay with it. So, but you have to build to that. But only people who know other people who need a $50,000 a day photographer are going to refer that $50,000 a day photographer to other people who need a $50,000 a day photographer. People give you what is asking. If you need a cheap photographer and you were a cheap photographer, you're going to be referred.
Yep. Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Okay.
Sorry for my rant.
No, that's hey. People are gonna walking away with a whole different outlook on what they're already doing and find ways to improve based on rants. So it's good. So let's dive into more WordPress specific with themes and plugins. So this segment of each episode, we have you, the guest, talk about what WordPress products that you recommend for other photographers to check out. So why don't you talk about? Sure. It looks like in the show notes you put all plugins. So let's talk about the first one.
Sure. I've been using WordPress about 10 years now. 2007 or so, and I've always enjoyed using it. The ability to just get in there and create. I mean, a lot of times I'll code my own stuff into it, but the ability to just the flexibility is so awesome. I can't. I'm sure anybody who's listening to this already knows that, but it really is amazing. As far as the plugins, I'm always the two I always put in for sure. Yoast is a standard for me. I think a lot of people use that for SEO.
I'm pretty sure Yoast has been recommended by, I would say, 30 out of the 37 episodes.
Yeah, I bet, and for good reason too. It keeps getting. There's a time I stopped using it though, and then it got better again. And for I would say last 4 or 5 years, I've been right on top using it. I always use WordFence to protect my site. I think it's a great plugin. It's saved me many a time and many of my clients. And it's amazing how many times I get a unsecured website from somebody, that someone else built them a website and there's no security on it. And I immediately throw WordFence in there and clean out any, malware that may be in there. And MailMunch is one that I mentioned down there just because I've enjoyed using it as a pop-up. There are a number of good ones. There may even be some better ones. It's just the one I've been using. Mm-hmm. And they also have been starting to, they have launched landing pages. I've not played with that very much, but I would like to start playing with that a little more, see how that goes. Maybe
interesting. That's nice from Dad.
Yeah, maybe you can answer this question for me. This is what I really want. So I have I'm going to use a bad word on this show. I have a client who uses Squarespace, and but they have a form plugin that allows, obviously it goes to the person when, the client when someone fills out the form, but also click a button and it'll go to my Google Drive as a spreadsheet. And so I can keep track of those conversions. So what I want is a lot of plugins just say thank you, don't go, but just have a pop-up says thank you, but will not give you an option to go to a thank you page so I can better track the conversion. And I know you can do events and in Google Analytics, but it's so much easier just to track a thank you page when someone lands on that. So I want a plugin that allows me to do a simple form that will send people to a thank you page, but then allow me to send a copy of that form to Google Drive. Do you know of one?
Yeah. So so you could you want this to be a pop-up, or it can just be a form on a page
just
embedded?
Just a form. Yeah, this is more. Okay. This is so more for more information for a client. So
So Gravity Forms can do that. So you can use Gravity Forms, have it go to a thank you page, and then if you really want to, you could even code the merge tags into the thank you page, so it's personalized.
Okay.
And there's an extension for Gravity Forms that allows you to send directly to a Google Drive sheet.
Well, that is perfect. Thank you. Gravity Forms it is. So everyone, my next suggestion is Gravity Forms, and I'm going to start playing with that. And I played with it in the past, but I did not know it. Okay, perfect. Good.
Yeah, and I'll link to both Gravity Forms and the extension in the show notes, so anybody who is interested in that too. By default, Gravity Forms will go to a thank you page if you want.
Yep.
But the extension, which I'm checking right now if it's free or not, it is trying to see. I can't tell if it's free. But anyway, I'll link to it so anybody can check it out. It might be a paid add-on. I'm not exactly sure.
The reason for those listening that I want, tracking conversions is so important. And when you have somebody, how often do people actually fill out that form? What is that conversion percentage, especially if you're advertising on Facebook, advertising in Google. And you want to have that whole funnel tracked all the way through so you can actually figure out if you're getting a positive ROI for your money. And so you figure out what the click-through rate is, and then you figure out what the conversion rate is, and it'll give you that information. And I create calculators for that too, and figure all that stuff out. And it's really, really important. A lot of people don't do that. And another thing that I do that I recommend that people do in WordPress is actually A/B test your pages, even your SEO pages. It doesn't have to be through a pay-per-click campaign. Use Google Analytics and do an experiment where you are A/B testing your contact page and see which one gets more people to fill out the form to request more information. And I've seen, I did this many years ago with the company I was at before. We had a really big wedding photographer client. And actually, they were a DJ business, but they asked, it was a DJ business, but they had photography as part of it. And one of the pages was, of course, more information to show the photography. And we A/B tested it. And before, it was like, starting off, it was 8% of the people actually filled out the form when they got there to ask for more information. And the client was pretty happy. He's like, but we're going to try this. And they say, well, we think this is even better. So we A/B tested their idea and our idea. And ultimately, we increased that submission to 16%. And so, nice. So that it was amazing. Maybe 14 or 16%. But whatever the case, it increased by a huge amount. And they get a decent amount of traffic. That turned into some real dollars. So obviously, it depends on how much traffic you get to your website. It'll make a big difference, but maybe just one. I mean, one for many photographers, one more wedding, one more portrait, one more could make a big difference. So see which one works better.
Yeah, and actually there's a new free tool from Google called Google Optimize, or maybe it's Google Optimizer. I think it's just Google Optimize, which I'll also link to in the show notes, that allows you to do free A/B testing.
Did they reopen
and it's visual.
That? Did they reopen that?
They reopened it and it's available free for everybody.
Okay, because it was before, because they shut it down years ago and put it into experiments in Google Analytics, but now they're reopened as its own standalone as Optimizer.
Yeah, it is called Google Optimize, and it's very visual. So you have to add some scripts, just like Google Analytics. You add scripts to your site, and then you can just go in, add a URL. It pulls it up in the thing, and you can replace text, change font, change color, change whatever, and then do as many variations on that. So you can do basically, A to Z testing or AZ testing. So it's
kind of funny. We were talking about videos earlier, and I was going through some of my old videos, and I had one from 2010 on Google Optimize or Optimizer at the time, and I looked and I said, maybe I should take this down because it's not even around anymore. And I guess I missed the memo on that. So anyway, hey, there it is. Okay.
It's there.
Yeah. But they've been releasing a lot of cool stuff lately. But those of you who put a lot of script in your WordPress sites, definitely consider using Google Tags. That's really important. If you guys haven't talked about that much, I would assume you have. But just to keep the site running a lot faster and smoother, which also helps your SEO.
Right. Yeah. Google Tag Manager. We've written about it. I've done videos on it on the Imagely blog. I've got another one prepared, an updated one. We haven't had a whole episode on it, but I've done the blog content on it. So I'll be sure to link to Google Tag Manager as well as content about it, so that anybody who wants to check it out can. If you are enjoying this podcast, if you enjoy this episode, please consider going to iTunes, searching for the WordPress Photography Podcast, or just search for Imagely and we'll show up as well, and leave us a nice review, because the more reviews that you leave, the more people will find this and learn from it. So thank you in advance for doing that. Thank you, Rosh, for joining me today. This is a great conversation. I think a lot of people are going to walk away learning a lot of new things and new ideas to think about and implement. So thank you for joining. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And, it was an honor to be here. I learned a lot of stuff myself, including that I'm your 37th favorite person online. And thank you. At least I'm in the top awesome. 100. And Ben, thank you for the tip.
That's true.
No, I appreciate the offer. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah. You can find the show notes from today's episode at imagely.com/podcast/37. So until next time.
You've been listening to the WordPress Photography Podcast. To listen to other episodes and to subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more, please visit imagely.com/podcast.